Welcome to ICT in Education's 5-Minute Friday, where we talk about ICT hints, tips, and methods for online, blended, and in the classroom learning in 5 minutes or less. This week, we're going back to basics with critical elements when designing for online teaching. This talk is based around a paper from the Distance Education Centre of the University of Southern Queensland. Now, it is from 1999, but don't dismiss it too early as it is talking about critical elements. Let's look at them and see where our courses today have these elements and if they're missing, how to design them back in. Firstly, let's look at what's meant by critical elements. Gunawardena and Zittel, in their examination of teaching and learning processes in distance education, have identified several themes or elements which seem to be present in successful online courses. These elements are cognitive strategies, learner-centeredness, interactivity, collaborative learning, and social presence. Let's look at each briefly. Using cognitive strategies means including cognitive tools in our courses where students construct their knowledge in visible form, which also constructs it in the mind. These tools could include mind maps, spreadsheets, and diagrams. Other aspects of learning, such as metacognition, need dynamic tools to increase students' awareness of their own learning process. Tools for this learning would be like learning diaries, reflection, and journaling. Also included in cognitive strategies is the idea of learning in bite-sized chunks with a clear, consistent structure and overview maps. Which brings us to learner-centeredness. A learner-centered approach is where the teacher becomes a guide or mentor. The learner has control over the content and materials, and activities are situated in a real-world context that is meaningful for students. Also, so that students know why and how to complete activities, clearly stated objectives and instructions are important. Lately, learner-centeredness has brought us to designing learning experiences, which will be the focus of another 5-Minute Friday, so stay tuned. The next critical element is interaction. Students interact with 3 entities as they construct their knowledge: the content, the teacher, and other students. These 3 types of interaction can help to guide our course design, being careful not to be too heavy in any one of these. Too much interaction with content means a lot of individual work and might demotivate students. Too much interaction with the teacher will likely take far too much time and effort on the teacher's part. And too much collaborative learning without teacher or material guidance is more like a student party. Speaking of parties, this brings us to social presence in an online environment. There's a certain small community that often forms in a physical classroom environment that needs to be specifically and purposefully designed into an online learning environment. This includes not only group work, but teacher presence and the idle chit-chat that naturally happens face-to-face. Teacher presence includes the subtle messages conveyed through body language and voice tone from the teacher, making learning messages clearer. These days, we have a huge advantage in that we can use technology to put voice, body language, idle chat, and collaboration back into our online communication through forums, audio and video recordings, and live calls. How have you included audio, video, idle chat, and collaboration into your courses? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So there we have it, the 5 critical elements for online course design. Firstly, there are cognitive strategies with mind maps, diagrams, reflections, and journaling. Secondly, learner-centeredness, where students have control over the content set in a real-world context with stated objectives and instructions. Thirdly, designing in a balance of the 3 types of interaction: student with teacher, student with student or collaborative learning, and student with content. And lastly, and possibly most importantly, social presence, which could include audio, video, and social connection with students and the teacher. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you online.